the cloud. Bloop. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 18th, 2022 edition of the Developer Best Practices Working Group. I posted a link to our agenda in the Zoom chat. If you could, please mark your attendance. If you have any items you wish to add to our agenda, please do so. We'll get started. Welcome, everybody. I just want to prepare you all. 2022 is the most important year in open source developer security. Of course, every year is the most important year, but don't tell everybody else. We'll open the call like we always do. Do we have any new friends to the group that wanted to introduce themselves and say hello?
That would be me. Hi, everybody. My name is Judy Kelly, and I'm a threat modeler on the Secure Development Engineering Group in Red Hat. I'm really excited to be here. First of all, I don't know how it's going to look, how I can contribute. I'm really interested in threat modeling and what can we do around threat modeling for 2022. So I'm excited to learn from all you guys where you stand on that, and yeah, excited to be here. Also, I need to apologize. The school just called, so I'm going to have to duck in 10 minutes. A disaster for me for my first lovely meeting with you folks. So, but I will be back, I promise, for our next call.
The first of many, I'm sure, Judy.
I hope so.
Well, welcome. Glad to have you. Do we have any other new friends that want to say hello?
Hi, my name is XiaoRuiz. I'm connecting from Switzerland. But I'm from Mexico. I work for JFrog. Recently joined to JFrog. So before that, I was a consultant. And yes, so I've been working with open source since a long time. So I'm very, very happy to join the group.
Excellent. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Any other new friends that want to say hey?
I can introduce myself, I guess. I'm Tim Pepper. I work at VMware in the Open Source Technology Center that we have, and we've had a number of things going on kind of in the software supply chain security area for a number of years now, and looking to get more involved in the OpenSSF as well.
Excellent. Well, I think this is probably the best place to do that. I'm a little biased. Anyone else new and want to say hello? All right, before we jump into our first item, a couple small points. Last year, the group had talked about wanting to potentially go out and evangelize open source secure development practices a little more. So I started to compile a list of conferences that'll occur this year. There's a link there in the agenda. Everybody has the ability to comment and add items if there's a local conference that they think would benefit from some attention, some open source developer security love, let me know. And maybe we may wish to, in a future call, brainstorm a little bit. Maybe strategically, it's in our best interest to build some type of deck or have some type of presence at some of these conferences. So consider that going forward. I'm going to skip David for a second and then note last year, one of our little projects was working on existing guidelines for secure development practices. I finally got off my butt over the holidays and did the first draft in Markdown in our GitLab. Unfortunately, I have a typo somewhere. So the formatting at the end is a little wonky. So if anybody has any free time they want to donate and make some suggestions and changes, that's one of the first items we collaborated on as a group. And we're glad to have that mostly available now to the internet. Let us jump back. Talked with a little bit with Zav over last week, and Laurent wants to come in and talk about NPM security best practices. So I'll yield the floor to you, sir. Why don't you take it away?
Oh, hi. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I think a few weeks ago I mentioned that I was working on an NPM best security practices document. And it's currently under review by the NPM security team. So I think they're gonna make it a lot better than what I had. But anyway, I'm glad that they are taking a look, and yeah, hopefully in a few weeks we'll have something that is ready to be published. So yeah, that was the first update I had. And I also met with XiaoRuiz, who's in the call here. Hi, XiaoRuiz. And we talked. So XiaoRuiz is an expert on tooling. So she basically presented me some of the tools that we can use, you know, to provide documentation for best security practices. And yeah, I think I'm going to let XiaoRuiz mention some of the tools that she described to me, because she knows better.
Okay, so I in the first calls, I just provided a little bit of feedback. So how do we make more accessible documentation? How we can make it more easy for people to contribute? So I mentioned tools and formats, like, for example, I propose ASCII Doctor and use Antora, different plugins for searching, making it more structured and easy to write it down and then publish in different formats and with different styles. I will work on that to create the template and to help this and the entire tool chain. So it's from building the sites, creating the scaffolding for the documentation, and preparing everything for push for continuous releases of the documentation. But if anybody is interested, I'm a developer, so it's documentation as code, basically.
Yeah, so I wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to get a formal agreement from this group to include that or not into our streams, because it's not yet in our OpenSSL, well, in this working group official streams. So I wanted first to get a kind of a decision from this group. Do we include that as stream? And one thing that I was a bit concerned about is that this documentation, as it is evolving, it's kind of an authoritative guide about how you are doing security with NPM. So I think that if we want to publish it as an authoritative guide from the OpenSSF, we need to have the commitment from the NPM team that yes, they will review it and they will continue to do so in the future and maintain it in the future, right? And so yeah, so these are the 2 points I think we need to confirm. So Laurent, do the second point I'm asking you, because I know that. So I wanted you to Miles and Darcy. So do you have their commitment that yes, they are going to maintain this OpenSSF guide in the future? And yes, and after that, this group has to decide if it is because this is a bit particular, right? To say, hey, us OpenSSF, we are writing a guide for a product. This is not something that we kind of did before. So yeah, so these are the 2 questions that I wanted to
yeah. So on the first question about are they going to take an authoritative view on what NPM is, I think I talked to both Miles and Jose. I think we agreed that we want the NPM security team to give us like a seal of approval that this is what they think are the best security practices. So that's the first point. And then long-term maintenance, I haven't talked to them about this. So I'm gonna talk to them. Yeah, that's a good point.
They agreed that they will give you the,
yeah,
the seal of approval. Hey, yes, this is sealed by NPM. Okay.
Yeah, I told them that we're not going to publish it unless they give us a seal of approval, and I think they were okay with that. So yeah, I think that should be okay. Do you have any other concern? Or I mean, I think they are in your team, so maybe you talk.
Well, they're not in my team exactly, but
Yes.
I will talk to them. I work with Jose on other things, the MFA distribution, but that's not on
Okay.
NPM. And then the other question was for the group, basically. Do we?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah. Are we the best practice group? Are we going to publish these authoritative guides on products, whatever they are?
So what
Because
do you
it's
mean by
one thing
product?
to, but well, NPM is a product, so we can take an approach like, hey, we are experts in using this product, and we're giving you a guide that we are writing as users, consumers. This is how we do it, right? And then we can take an approach like, hey, this is the ultimate authoritative guide. This is how you do security on NPM. I have no concern with the first approach. Like, hey, I've been using it since years, and I'm an expert, and this is how I do it. The second approach, given that it's a commercial product, right? We need to decide if we are going to do this kind of stuff. I'm not against it, but I think that we need to raise a question to the group.
So my first question is, are the documents available for the group to take a look at and review? I'm sure a couple of us here have used NPM and may have some thoughts that might want to contribute.
Yeah, it's available. I've shared it with the group, I think, in a previous meeting, but let me copy again the current link.
That'd be super.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is in the review, so it's going to change.
Yeah, no, but we might have thoughts that could help or could get in the way. Who knows? So I'll open the floor. What's the team think about this? Do we want to kind of take on this responsibility? I like the approach of having the involvement of the security team. I think that's important for us to consider. We probably would need to think about what the ongoing maintenance commitment's going to be for us. How do we want to maintain this, and how will it be done to keep in coordination with the maintainers and the security team? But what does the rest of the group feel here? It's impossible. David Wheeler doesn't have an opinion.
Well, what is actually the overall approach for OpenSSF and commercial products and helping and stuff like that? I mean, if it's not in line with that mission, then we already have a bit of an issue then. But personally, I think there's a huge need for it, right? So I think it's a great initiative. It needs to be there. So from that point, I would say yay. Yeah, and if it doesn't clash with the OpenSSF vision, mission, and how to deal with like commercial products, I think then it's good for me. I think it's good. We should do it, but
the requirement is that we improve the security of open source software. There's, as far as I know, now I'm relatively new to the LF. I don't know how much longer I get to play that card, but yeah, Crow, you still have a little time to play that card too. But I don't know of any particular limitation on that. As long as we're improving the security of open source software, we should expect that we're going to interact with commercial organization. That's kind of inevitable. That doesn't mean that we should necessarily take this on. So I'm intentionally trying to stay out because I'm not sure. There's pros and cons, but I don't see any reason not to. But I think that was mentioned earlier was key, is that we want the to collaborate with the NPM folks.
There are many people on the call. What other opinions do we have today? All right, so how about we formulate an email, send it out to the mailing list, kind of formally requesting the group's interest. Do we want to do this? And I will check with the TAC during the next TAC call to see if they're aware of any limitations. But I think absolute bare minimum, we absolutely add it to our existing best practice guidance. And I think if this group wants to collaborate and continue to help work on it, I feel it's a very worthy mission, since looking at the size of NPM in our ecosystems. Any additional thoughts or questions before we move on? Yeah, so actions for Laurent, if you could send an email to the group kind of formally requesting the mailing list, it's like, do we wish to take this on? And if you could get us just a link so that folks could take a look at it and provide any feedback if they have thoughts, that'd be awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah, that works. Thanks.
Groovy. Let's talk about our other project that we worked on last year, the Great MFA Distribution. I think we might have some awesome recap figures from David.
Well, to be honest, I need to go back and get the real recap figures, but I'm at this meeting, I'm realizing, oh, I probably should have some numbers. Well, I'm going to add that note now. We need to get the better number, the more accurate numbers. But basically, I can quickly pull up at least the original project request numbers. There were requests from various critical open source projects for 102 YubiKeys from GitHub and 65 Titans from Google. We actually set more because once we set an initial draft, we realized, oh, we've got extras. Project said, hey, could you give us some more? Oh, okay. Hey, look at this. Now, wait a minute. Why? We've got a weird discrepancy here between Xavier's number and my number. So I don't know what that means. Maybe some projects made the request, but they didn't actually.
Perhaps they didn't yet made the request. Perhaps they get the.
That's right.
They got
Yeah,
the scores,
that's
but
true.
they didn't yet.
Yeah, because the folks who got the YubiKeys knew that they could redeem them at any time. They didn't have to redeem them by the end of December. Whereas the Titan folks, I tried to make it very, very clear they had to redeem them at the end of December, which is why we were rushing. But in any case, so somewhere between 150 200 tokens were sent out. That turned out to be a whole lot of work because we were interacting individually with each of the different projects. So my thanks to all the notifiers, because a number of projects said didn't reply. I realized we were near the end of the year, and it was hard not to look like a spammer. And even for the ones who did reply, some folks replied and said, like the Linux kernel folks, basically said, "We're good. Everybody has one." So okay, that's a fine answer. We are okay with that answer. But I think the better way to view this is every single one of those is a one more method of attack that is suddenly much harder for the attackers, because each of these projects is really important to a huge number of folks, and this is one of those little relatively inexpensive ways we can make the attackers' lives more unpleasant. So thank you very much, everybody. I suspect we'll do more, but right now I'm recovering.
So, but David, speaking of this, I mean, I sent an email actually because the Kubernetes of all people, right? The Kubernetes community did not respond initially. Oh, they said, oh yeah, well, we'll open an issue. And then this thing kind of fell dormant over the holidays. And now they're waking up saying, hey, this is like a great project. Can we have some keys? And I said, well, let me check. I don't know what the status is. Do we still, I understand the Titan with the coupon was expiring, but what about YubiKeys?
The YubiKeys are still available. And we'll see if we can browbeat. I mean, ask our friends at Google.
Yes.
To be fair, Google folks, I honestly, I do mean in all sincerity, thank you. The time limit was imposed by just their internal processes. We're still grateful. So we've got YubiKeys. We can hand them out right now. The tokens of the YubiKeys, I'm sorry, the Titans, we might be able to re-get them in the future, but we don't have access to them at this instant in time.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah. Do we have the same limit of 5 keys?
No, I don't. I think. All right. The reason for the 5 keys was that we didn't want to make promises we couldn't keep. And so I intentionally,
because they asked me, and this is Kubernetes, and I felt, okay, this is a big project. Maybe we can, spare a few more.
Oh, I think we can spare a few more. We didn't know what kind of response we would get. I mean, first time this has ever been done in the world, as far as I know. So you have no idea what's going to happen.
No, I'm with you. I was there and I agreed with that approach. It sounded like, this is a reasonable way. But so that's why I asked about the status, because now they are actively trying to, figuring out who needs a key. And so they're asking me questions. I said, I think there's still a possibility to get YubiKeys, and I'll let you know how many. So.
Yeah. So let's see. By the numbers, we have something a little over 350 left. So I don't think we should give them all to Kubernetes, but
no, of course.
Let's get at least let's get a whole bunch out to them. Sitting around not doing anything is not helping.
And I see. No, but so I'm not going to commit any number, but I'm going to say, okay, we can have possibly more than 5. Tell me how many you need, and then we can figure out what's
and if they come
reasonable.
back, if they come back with 20 or so, I think we should just do it. And I think if they come back with 500 or 800, we need to say what.
I can't imagine they would do that, but I'm with you. That's good. Thank you.
Sure. Tim Pepper had raised his hand, and then Krob.
Yeah, so I guess I should mention, I happen to be on the steering committee for Kubernetes, and I'm a emeritus lead of the SIG release over there also. So I think our priority would be to get keys for the core release people. I think initially people thought, hey, maybe we should get all reviewer and approvers and like really bump this up. That's where you get to like a 300 plus number. If we want to do that as a project, we will make sure we fund that. I'll just kind of throw that out there. I think from a steering committee perspective, we need to figure out how to solve that, not just get free ones from OpenSSF or someone else. So if you hear a huge number, let me know, but I'll make sure on the other side of things that we're focusing on the core initially.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much. I mean, you've got a project a whole lot of people depend on. So just thank you in general.
Absolutely. Well, that actually ties into a question I had, David. I was one of the notifiers, and I got to figure out how the hell do these different projects wish to be engaged over the holidays, which was a treat, let me say. Now that we've passed the deadline, what do we want to do with the folks that didn't respond or responded but never followed up? Do we want to, as a group, reapproach them now that we're past the big holiday? Well, we're moving into Chinese New Year next, but now that we're past a major holiday set, do we want to go out and reapproach those folks that either didn't respond or didn't seal the deal, so to speak?
I think it would be a good idea. I will say that I have limited bandwidth, so at this point I'm trying to do other things, but I think if a project shows up and says, hey, can we have some tokens? I would say, yes, let's just do it. We were at the outset, we were concerned about too many people asking for too much, but in fact, that didn't happen. So right now we're, as long as the requests aren't too unreasonable, I would say everyone sent out is making the world a little better. So let's just do it.
I think our timing complicated it a little bit.
Oh, it did. It did. doing it over Christmas season was not easy for a lot of folks, and just relative in the short time frame. On the other hand, it did make us actually go do it.
Yep.
And I will say that this may seem strange, but I think a whole lot of people really appreciated being able to point to hey, OpenSSF doesn't just write some docs no one looks at. We do stuff that actually gets into people's hands, and I think that has a benefit of just seeing something in people's hands and getting things done is a good thing.
I think it's awesome that almost 200 additional developers will be working a little more securely this year. So I think that's great.
Yep.
It's a win.
One question, I know that this top 100 list was kind of very much work in progress when we adopted it. Is there, what's the state basically on that front? What I mean is, will it be reworked in a way or extended, revised, that there will be additional projects coming in? So in addition to reaching out to the ones that have not yet responded, are there more projects that will end up on that list? Maybe Log4j or
now you mentioned Log4j. We have a story for you there. The Critical Projects Working Group has added Log4j, and so we added it to the MFA. So in fact, the Log4j folks are some of the folks who responded and already have tokens.
Yeah, I saw you kind of proposing that on the mailing list. That
I got a yes, and so I didn't. We were all just trying to keep our head above water, trying to do all this thing right over Christmas. So so the Log4j folks got some tokens. So the Critical Projects Working Group is going to update their list. And we should probably try to send out I think we can probably handle those as deltas. In other words, as they add projects, they can say, hey, we added blah blah blah, and then we can try to contact them, but without quite the frenzy of Christmas was coming, hurry up.
Okay, fine.
And especially some of the groups I contacted, their only means of communication was a mailing list. I guarantee over the holiday season that got lost. And I'd like to probably try to reapproach some of them again.
Actually, you should be grateful that you had a mailing list to contact.
I liked the ones that were in Git. That was the easiest. Whoop, make an issue, done.
Well, yeah, except that my experience was that they were less responsive than the mailing list one, because if it was on the issue list, it's not a crisis, off we go. And so I you know what, we attempted to contact everybody, and we did what we could with a very, very short fuse, and I would count this as a success.
Absolutely. All right.
That's it.
Before we go to opens, does any of our member projects have any updates they want to share? Any amazing new things during the new year you want to share?
Oh, sorry, you go first.
Okay, sure. So I wanted to share some updates about the upcoming scorecard V4 release. So I don't know, do you want me to present my screen or do you want to share your screen? I don't know how you want to do that. I have a presentation.
Please go ahead and present.
All right.
One less tab out of 300 I don't have to open. We see your screen, sir.
Hey, can folks hear me now? Oh, all right, much better.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So So we are coming up with a new scorecard v4 release. So just to be clear, the public announcement is going to happen tomorrow. We're going to have a blog on both OpenSSF, Google, and GitHub. So we are doing some partnership work with GitHub, which I'll talk about. So what's new in Scorecard v4 is we're coming up with this GitHub Actions. So I kind of want to walk through this with folks. So we have a new Scorecard GitHub Action that we have created in v4. And what we've done is we've partnered with GitHub to basically have it installed not just in the marketplace, but in your repository. So if you go to your security settings, in your repository, you'll basically see a tab saying add a security new code scanning tools, and Scorecard will show up as one of the tools there. And we have a pre-created template that you can just use to add Scorecard as a constantly running monitoring tool to your repository. So you can see the instructions for it available on OSSF Scorecard Action. Next, we've added like scanning for about 1 million projects. We scan these projects every week, and the data for that is available through our Bigtable database. So the link here shows how to access this database and how to query and figure out some interesting things about the OpenSSF ecosystem. The next thing is we added a few new checks. One of the interesting one we had was the check on dangerous workflows. So what this does is it can look into GitHub workflows, and it can figure out if you are potential for leaking any of your secrets. So for example, let's say you're doing something like a code checkout and then building it directly in, let's say, a pull request target, and instead of a pull request, it can figure out these kind of dangerous workflow settings. The next thing is license. This is more to figure out if folks are even have any kind of license information. It's not a security check per se, but more of a best practices check. The final thing we had is we had far more greater collaborations. We had more people that we worked with. We had projects like Go Releaser, and Sixstore who showed interest in who showed interest in scorecards. They wanted to kind of add some features and help us out. So that was good. So having done that, I think the one thing I kind of want to mention is our next step is really to increase the adoption of Scorecard, make sure that more and more people have the Scorecard GitHub Action installed. So I want to ask folks here, if you are maintainers of any open source projects, please do check out the Scorecard Action and see if you can install it. If you are in touch with other maintainers of open source projects, you can either let them know, or like let us, you can get us in touch with them so that we can ask and work with them to get this installed. We are also working for our next versions to work with other projects across OpenSSF like Allstar to create more interesting policies and compliance using scorecards. And the last two things are something that David spoke about through his exec meeting, which is that we want to add support for non-GitHub repositories, and at the same time, we want to support more tool recognition and scorecard. So that's pretty much it. If folks have any questions, maybe I can go through that.
When the blogs go live, Azim, can you notify us so that we can amplify on social media to try to help spread the word a little more?
Sure. Yeah, I can like either ping on Slack or if you think any other way, I can do that too.
That'd be that, and maybe just tickle the mailing list, both those. And then if I would encourage everyone to try to amplify that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? This is excellent great progress. Thank you. All right. Did we have any other, Glenn, did you have any updates you wanted to share? Any other the member projects want to share anything?
Yeah, I wanted to give a small update on the SKF learning platform. So we actually started already to build the use cases to be able to deliver the learning platform somewhere in end of Q1. We identified, like I mentioned before, 3 learning paths. So one for secure development, one for web API security, and one for infra/ops. I have now around 4 people from my company helping me and working on those. So that is great. And myself, I will start soon making videos and slides. Yeah, what else to say? Let me think. I'm also almost done with the SSO implementation. That was a thing I was also working on. And over there, what I now add, everything works using the Docker Compose. So now it's only a matter of making Kubernetes YAML files as well for the additional gateway Keycloak servers, tied up together, write a bit of documentation. So that is also finished then. Yeah, and in terms of the learning project, so what we also have now is around 60 Node.js labs that you also can do. So the idea is, well, we already had Python labs in SKF. Now we also have the similar in Node.js. And we are now actually started building the Java and the .NET labs as well. So those are mainly going to be used for the secure development track, so everybody can at least pick a language that that's popular and that they're familiar with. So that's going really full speed ahead. Let me think. Well, I already mentioned I moved the whole SKF demo site to the Microsoft Azure using thanks to their credits that they hand out to the open source projects. That's running like a sunshine, like really great. Let me think. Oh yeah, and there was another thing I wanted to discuss before the Great MFA project. We actually were also busy with that landing page loop. Yeah, so I wanted to check how do we proceed with that. You know, is somebody going to pick it up? Do we do it collectively as a group, or just to get your thoughts on how to move forward with that one?
I'm very sorry, Glenn. I don't understand what you mean by landing page loop. Can you explain?
Yeah, I think I even pushed it to our repository, so at least I didn't lose it. And good I did, because my computer crashed 3 weeks ago. Anyhow, so I pushed it there, and it's basically like this landing page for, at least that was the idea, landing page for developers, where we can promote in every different stage of development the different tools, the tools from the tooling working group, our projects. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, we talked about it several times, trying to have like a one pager or like an intro crash course for developers on if you're doing a specific task in the development infinity lifecycle. It would showcase different best practices or tools or videos or whatever. We talked about it a few times here.
Okay, all right, that's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, the little infinity loop helps me remember that. I mean, we can post, if we post it somewhere, we can improve it. Does it have a place where it lives right now? Glenn?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't got your question.
Where is it right now? And
it is in our repository.
Okay, in the best practices repo.
Yeah, ours. Yeah, correct.
It's under the images. Eve. I believe that is it. That's not it. Don't click that link. That's not the right link.
Okay.
We'll find the link, post it, and maybe how about we carve out some time in the next meeting if everyone could take a little homework, reflect on the diagram. If you have any feedback for us, let's talk about it as the group next time, and I'll get the right link.
So I have two requests. Please do that. One, we can post out to the mailing list the link of, hey, everybody, look at this. We're going to talk about it in the next meeting. Ideally, we have, if you have some specific ideas of what you think the next steps would be, Glenn, and then let's, I'm sure there are things we can do, but